ain't going back. Not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide. Gonna let all the fears slide. Got Mother Nature is on my side. Got all of the loving.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm very delighted to have Brent Davis here with us for the very first time, and Campbell from Autodidactic. We're going to discuss Brent's brilliant FlorAlive company. He is the inventor, the creator of the process. And Brent, maybe in your own words, you can introduce what you're doing, why, and how it can help and assist our viewers.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me here. And what's really interesting is to look at the state of the world today, in 2023, and to realize that a vision, and actually it was a vision that I had at the turn of the millennium, showed me how to create a method to extract energy from a flower while it's living without cutting it. So that's a profound difference from the FlorAlive, from the flower essences all over the world, and from Dr. Bach's flower essence. And it's very, very important. A lot of people are starting to pay attention to quantum biology and quantum physics. And when you do not cut a flower, in addition to, ahimsa, nonviolence, a nice concept of being gentle, and that's certainly a lovely thing, there's something much more powerful physically. And I didn't know that. I didn't know the real reason until I spoke with Dr. William Tiller, who was my science advisor for my book, The Floral Hand of God, Secret Healing Codes of Flowers Revealed. And I'll show you links where we can get that. You can get it on the FlorAlive.com website. I do not recommend getting it on Amazon because they're selling old copies that were broken. Okay, so I recommend getting the new copies that are from our company. But Dr. Tiller is a professor emeritus of physics at Stanford University, taught there for over 40 years. And so he's probably the preeminent specialist on consciousness and the physics of consciousness way before anybody started writing New York Times bestsellers. So that was like 20 years after he had done his seminal work, people started capitalizing on his work, but he really defined how intention physically alters matter. And when I went to spend a weekend with him, when he had agreed to help me with the physics, understanding the physics of why my flower essences can do something that looks impossible, which is to immediately initiate a deep change in the entire energetic structure of a human. And remember, I'd already been in practice since 1978. So I had 22 years of clinical practice, and then all of a sudden I discovered this stuff. And I went, wait a minute, it's making changes that kind of don't make sense. And the changes are nearly instantaneous. And we can find that with proficient applied kinesiology, muscle testing, and other methods. You can see immediately, we'll get into this, you can see immediately that there can be a belief and a consciousness, administer the substance, and within just moments later test it, and that has changed. Throughout the quantum dynamics of the universe, it's changed. How is that possible? That was my question to Dr. Tiller, and we spent a weekend discussing that. But one of the things that he pointed out, and it's in my book, in the chapter that Dr. Tiller wrote, is the amazing feature of when I told him, and you can look at this was the greatest flower in Hawaiian medicine, it's called ko'okolau. We're the only producer of anything from that true ko'okolau bidens. It's a very rare plant that grows in the North Shore of Oahu. But when we don't cut the flower, the antenna, which is the flower, has a power source. And that's what Dr. Tiller said to me. He happens to also be an expert on antennas. He said, Brent, when you have an antenna, the antenna requires power to drive it. If you cut a flower, it loses the ground to the earth power. It loses its power source. But if you're extracting a flower while it's living, connected to the earth, you're getting the piezoelectric characteristics of that place in the earth related to the entire cosmology of the planet and the flower sitting in where it's sitting. So he said it's actually a vast difference what you're doing. So I said, okay. that's good information. I didn't know that about antennas requiring a power source. I mean, I hadn't thought of it. But flowers are a remarkable power source. And then the next question is, well, what do they pick up? And that's why I wrote the book, to talk about the extraordinary guidance that has sent me around the world to find these flowers in various places. And I talked to Campbell, who's now in northern Australia, and we talked about my unforgettable 10 days in Perth, above Perth, in that beautiful area of wildflowers, where I made a number of flower essences, a very powerful one, from Australia. But I've gone all over the world collecting these frequencies. They're then stabilized, and they last forever. They don't wear out. That quantum frequency is set in the water, and the water is then held in a very special glass vial, and that's used for, it's good for many, many, many years. So let's look at, if we can, let me share a screen and go to this. That's the book that I was talking about, and we're on the FlorAlive.com flower essence. Can you guys see this now?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Get that off of there. So if we're going to go back to the home, so anyway, the Floral Hand of God book, and there's a sample chapter download. It's actually several chapters, and this is just at FlorAlive.com, and you can look at the bottom of the page. Let's go back and let me show you the layout of that. Let's go to the home page. So this is the home page at FlorAlive.com. And if we go down to the bottom, we see these very nice resources. We see the free chapter download. That's what I just clicked, where you can also purchase the book. And it is a beautiful book with color plates of these amazing flowers. There's a section here, and we may have time to go over photos of change, that actually shows true life changes before and after that take place in an extremely short period of time. This is a 1 month period. There's actually bony remodeling of this person's face. She did not do anything else. The highly controlled experiments. These were very, very carefully done. The next one, this was in my own office. Took a picture on the 3rd, took a picture 2 weeks later, actual bony remodeling of the face. Now we can say that because there is an exact superposition of the eyes, the central part of the pupils is exactly matching on both of these. So what's called the aspect ratio is exactly equal. So when you see changes otherwise, it's not an artifact. It's actually a change. And when I saw this kind of stuff, I said, this is in 2005, and I met Dr. Tiller and spent time 2 years going through his physics before I released the book in 2014. But I had seen this for several years. This woman had been under tremendous trauma and abuse, and her life changed within, again, 3 weeks about it. And she talks about life change. This fellow, again, look at that. This one was great. Some of these, he sent these pictures in. This fellow was from California. This one took place in my office. And when the pictures are taken, the person is instructed not to smile. Very, very clear instruction. Close your eyes, open your eyes, and I take the photograph. That's how I do it. So I had her in my office. That's how she came in, beleaguered in a terrible classroom with out of control children and a very difficult home life. And then 2 weeks later, I remember this just like it was yesterday, and I keep saying, no, stop smiling. Okay, please, just don't smile. And she would close her eyes, and that was her new expression. That was it. She wasn't smiling. So when you see these kinds of things, this is another dramatic one. This took place in a workshop that I did in Santa Barbara for 35 women. And she described, her energy level came up. And again, I had her retake the photo to make sure that she wasn't smiling. So anyway, we can go on with that, but those are wonderful resources. There's a lot of information on the website, and the Learning Center has got the scientific validation. I don't want to get into that now, but some people like quantum physics and try and understand. When I state this, it is not hyperbole. There is nothing else like this in the world. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with what's out there. So the science of it and the people that are involved in that, Dr. Chiller being one of them, great scientists from Europe that looked at these things, it's all there. And so we describe it. And then these are how to take the essences, what you can expect when you begin it. It really helps people understand that. And the last thing, and we'll talk about this at the end, is the community, which we'll spend the last few minutes going over that. So let's go back and look at something that's very, very important. Now, think about what's going on now. People feeling afraid, disempowered. We don't want to get into the politics because, there are a lot of people that are great communicators talking about what's led us to this global crisis of a bunch of people trying to usurp our God-given dominion and our innate freedom that is our birthright, and that is being stolen. So we're very clear, we're starting to get a message where people are seeing that that's happening. So remember that this was given in 2000. And I developed these remedies from 2000 to 2015, well before this insanity started. And the great thing about this is these were prepared for this time right now, because what these flowers are about is taking back your personal power. And they are vibrational frequencies that are a countermeasure to the broadcasting for what I was just listening before I started here. It was a very good channel. All these wonderful people out there speaking about what he called, there's a fellow by the name of Jake Chansley was talking about full spectrum dominance. And it's a good term. So things have been organized for full spectrum dominance to control every part of our being, psychically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and financially. Yeah. Well, amazingly enough, whoever the high-level beings were that figured out how to channel the energies into the flowers and then tap me on the shoulder so I'd go off these crazy places around the world to find these things. I mean, that's why I wrote a book. It's kind of hard to believe. The book is a lot of fun, explaining what I call about the long tail of serendipity. Because it's one serendipitous after another, after another, after another. So many that it can't be chance. It's very clearly was organized. So the model is simple. And this comes out of energy psychology. I was trained in energy psychology. Energy psychology began in the mid-1980s. A long story there, don't want to get into it, but people can look up energy psychology. And I was present when it was forming. And energy psychology actually comes from chiropractors, Dr. Goodhart and his colleagues, and the people in the International College of Applied Kinesiology in the early years with psychiatrists and psychologists developed what is now called energy psychology. And that is the ability, it started with the ability to muscle test proficiently with people that are trained and monitor what's going on in the unconscious mind. So I began learning that in the later 1980s. So I had been doing that for 12 years before I discovered FlorAlive. And when I started getting the flower essences, the big question I had when I studied Dr. Edward Bach's work, he's very famous for the Bach flower essences, he was a great being. I did not understand how he knew what flowers would do. I thought, how? Now I know very well, and the book explains how I began to understand how one learns what a flower can do. But in the early years, with these unknown substances, I would make the essence, I'd be guided to a flower. Then I had my practice, and the serendipity was whenever I made a new flower, almost always the next week after I made it, someone would come in who was a test case that actually really needed it. And so I did a very interesting thing, and that is because of my training. I was able to energetically screen the unknown substance on a person with a grievous problem, new patients typically, oddball situation. I just saw my brother killed in front of me and I'm having devastating grief. Okay, an example. So this person comes in, you can't ignore that took place. At least I couldn't ignore that. That's a huge thing. And then I'd have this, I'd hold this bottle of stuff that I had made, and I could screen it to see what's called a global affinity. Did it match? Did the person's being need that substance that I had just made? And the answer would be huge, yes. Then I would figure out what I'm going to show you, test phrases. And those test phrases are used in energy psychology. So you can actually find out if someone has a condition, administer the substance, and immediately retest it to see if the condition is gone. Now, if it leaves that quickly, it has to be because of the quantum event. That's how I got into the quantum physics and the quantum biology, to explain how FlorAlive products work. But what's behind all of it is the divine. It's divine code. And that's why I gave the title of the book, The Floral Hand of God. I couldn't think of a better way. Certainly not my hand in there. I mean, I make this stuff, but it didn't come from me. It's divine. So if we go to the model, this model came over several years, having been understood energy psychology. And I'm going to read it because we have some people who are just listening to audio, right? So I wanted to read this. The subconscious holding of memories of emotional trauma and or abuse causes and maintains our deepest stresses. It is responsible for maladaptations in our personality. The proper uncut flower frequencies can overwrite stored memories of trauma, fundamentally helping to restore balance. So the model is schematically showing many individuals suffer from emotional or physical trauma or abuse, probably close to, over 90% of the world's population, depending on how you define it. And that is recurring violation of one's personal space or core invalidation. People being told, or in this case, subliminally being influenced to believe that they're invalid, that they have no power, that, this is all trauma and abuse. That leads to, particularly if it's a physical abuse, it leads to turning off, checking out. You see that deer in the headlights look. I showed you a couple of pictures where people are just blank. That's because they're out of their body. They've checked out. And that leads to something that is or looks like post-traumatic stress syndrome. Affected individuals close down, for the world is perceived as unsafe. As a result, the afflicted enter into judgment or control. And that's huge. Judgment is to determine what is safe and what is not. So everything's judged. Oh yeah, I like that. I don't like that. Did you see that person? Look at what they're wearing. I really don't like their clothing. It's judgment about everything. And when you see that in a person, right away, your heart can go out. They're traumatized. They have received abuse or trauma from somewhere. And once they're in that state, then they got to control everything. Because if they don't control it, they're not safe. So you have a life that is checked out, full of judgment and control, and that's not a happy existence. So those affected lose the ability to receive love, friendship, and financial prosperity. And of course, recovery and real healing. So the FlorAlive essences remove stored memories of trauma, promoting greater ease, joy, and prosperity. That's the model. It's a short one, but it's very, very profound. We'll go ahead and look at a few things here. But do you have questions, Campbell or Lorenzo? Do you have questions?
You use the roots of the flower as well? Like you talk about the full flower, like when you use the flower.
So I'm guided to do things. There is one flower called Manzo that I actually excavated the plant, left the root structure in the ground, but took out a couple of the living roots and I extracted that. It was pretty interesting deal. When I was in Bali, I was told to extract a tree, and so I extracted the trunk of the tree. And there's a way of doing that with my system. So it's very difficult, but I can do it. Generally speaking, they are flowers, almost always. But there are occasions where I do something different. Okay, so let's look at blue-eyed grass. Look at, if that's not an antenna, I don't know what is. I mean, you've got the electronic amplification here. I mean, it is so clearly an antenna, right?
Yeah.
So that every picture on the website I took, and I explain in my book, when I go to photograph the flower, I enter into a timeless zone where nothing else in the world exists. And it's wonderful because my world right now is very, very complicated, and it's too full of physical stuff that I have to take care of. But during the period that I was doing these flower essences, it was quite unusual. I was relieved pretty much of all responsibility. And I'm going to talk about how I wish to achieve that again soon, because it's time for me to go out and get some more new essences. But right now I have huge numbers of responsibility. But at this time, I was free. I had this wonderful staff and support, and I could simply go, and nothing else in the world was there. And then I would make these extracts. And I was able to set up the apparatus to do the extraction and then move out of the way and let divine put the energy into the water surrounding the plant. Sometimes the flower essences were extracted over a period of 24 hours. Actually, one or two of them was over several days, because I had the guidance that there were celestial configurations taking place that were very important to capture, and I just left the product in there. Now, if we look at the world of quantum energy, there is so much going on, from sunspot activity to movement of all the planetary bodies to the stars. It's inconceivably complex. It doesn't matter how smart you are. No human being could ever figure out everything that's going on at a particular point in time. It's impossible. So what I simply did was follow the guidance, know that a huge amount of things are going on, and leave it alone. And let whatever it was go into that and be captured. And now I look at it in retrospect and just go, oh my God, that's incredible. So this is the great helper for physical, emotional trauma and abuse. And we want to combine that with, we were talking about what would really help people at this point in time. Healing trauma. Remember, that's the first step in that triangle. And then, what do I see now among people that are depressed? I'm seeing my practice is sort of on hold for a few months, but I always try to maintain that. It's a part-time practice, because when I see people, it keeps me in touch with the reality and time of what's going on, because people reflect the global consciousness. And so when they come into my office and I can see them, it keeps me in touch. And what I've been seeing in the last couple of years since the, I call it the health scare, just call it the health scare, started a few years ago.
Yeah.
There's this terrible anxiety, but quite often hopelessness. And you can test this with energy psychology by saying, to have the person state, the condition of the world is hopeless. They test true, if you're doing muscle testing, or my life condition is hopeless. And it tests as true, coherent. You administer the drops of that, 3 or 4 seconds or 5 seconds later, you return and do it, and it is no longer true. So, I have been trained in science, and when something like that occurs, from a mainstream science standpoint, it makes no sense. From a quantum science and a quantum biology standpoint, it could make sense. And one of the ways that I proved this to myself before I wrote the book, because I was making some what could sound like grandiose statements, could sound like mentally unstable, grandiose statements. So I wanted to make sure that what I was saying is true. Other than people who came through with a very advanced gift of healing, the Christos energy, Christ-like, or Christ himself, or Buddha, or these very, very select group of people. I know a few of these extremely advanced people. I'm aware of a couple of dozen of them. Boy, I know a lot of people. There are very few people in the world that can initiate massive change instantaneously, but there are. I mean, there are people that can do that, but there are very few of them. When you have a bottle of something, you can make 50 or 100,000 of those, or a million bottles of that, and send it out and have someone put drops in water that doesn't even understand quantum biology and have their life change, that is a miracle. To me, it's a miracle. And it's a God-ordained miracle. So this stuff, healing support, which hopefully people can read this, removes hopelessness, instills optimism and confidence, reduces sadness, lessens emotional trauma, promotes kindness to oneself. There are 5 flowers in that, or 6 actually. And those 6 flowers are incredibly, and the one flower that's not with that is blue-eyed grass. So I recommend people get healing support in blue-eyed grass, or the other amazing, which is the first combination essence I ever produced, which is called Revival. So the difference between Revival also has blue-eyed grass in it. So when you add blue-eyed grass to healing support, you have the blue-eyed grass. You really want that blue-eyed grass when you're starting out, trying to fix yourself up. This is for people that are tough in a spiritual realm. They're not novices so much, and they're ready to really shift stuff. Healing support is more for people that are kind of testing the water, not quite so sure if they can commit to the change of consciousness. And so it really, that's the major differentiator. They're both phenomenal products. One thing, let me look back and see.
So what did you say the difference was again between healing all and revival?
Healing support and revival is a
Healing support.
matter of where you are in your journey, in your spiritual journey. If you have already dealt with some of the challenges of transformation of consciousness, if you've dealt with that, and you're not a novice, you're in there, like my favorite thing is people that have been to every seminar possible for the last 20 years, they come in as a new patient, I'd evaluate them, and things as basic as failure to receive love. So let's look at one of the
so you're saying if they're a novice, healing support is better?
Yes.
If they've done some work, revival is a better beginning.
And if they've already been engaged in this, these 6 flowers are tulip poplar, wild iris, Makilina, which comes from a 15,000-foot glacial lake. Actually, it's no longer there. It disappeared in 2006, 2004, 2006 maybe. I prepared this right at the beginning of about 2002, and it was already under serious decline. The area of the Andes where I go has the fastest disappearance of glaciers of anywhere in the world. And so now it's not there anymore. But I made a lot of that essence. Makilina is, regardless of my efforts, I cannot influence the outcome. So let me go and let me show you something. Let's go onto my screen here. If I can, where the heck is this? Aha. Let's see if I can bring this up. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah, master combination essence.
Yes. No, I changed. I changed.
No,
maybe we don't see it, or
I think you need to stop and then do a new share. But just
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to stop share and then reshare.
So
yeah, here we go.
With these plants, you're extracting more like the frequency, I guess. Like it's not a physical thing, like
That's right.
as far as saps and things, you're getting
That's
the
right.
frequency.
There's nothing, they're not cut. So if you being a real scientist, when you cut a flower essence, there's a small amount of sap goes into the water, and there is actually some dissolved solids. With this, there is absolutely nothing in here except pure energy. And these products are labeled floral sacraments, and they are sold as holy water. They're not a nutritional supplement, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
There's nothing in them except sacred energy.
So there's nothing physical in them that you've
nothing,
taken that you're transferring.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's called epitaxial transfer. That's the name in physics between when one surface touches another, as in the petal of the flower touching water. There's a transfer from the semi-crystalline nature of the floral surface into the semi-crystalline nature of water. And that water picks up and holds that frequency. That's called epitaxial transfer. Most physicists don't know what that is. That's what Dr. Killer.
Yeah, so it's along the lines of the work done by Dr. Emoto, where he was affecting water with intent and things.
Yeah, water has memory, and he was one of the people that certainly made that point. And water does have memory. So, okay, so this is revival. And it's actually quite extraordinary if you look at to overcome futility and hopelessness. So the person lying on the table says, regardless of my efforts, I cannot influence the outcome. No matter what action I take, I will be defeated. Now think of the meaning of the words. Energy psychology places a great deal of significance on words. And words are very powerful and very meaningful. So when a person believes that no matter what action they take, they will be defeated, what do we have? We have the condition that the globalists are working for. Right? We've got everybody going like, what the hell's the difference? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I'm done. I don't have any power. Now, that was figured out in 2000. Somebody figured that out, and they went up and they started putting that energy into that flower, which, and I didn't have any time for acclimatization. I was in Lima, and all of a sudden I flew and went up a 15,000-foot mountain, yours truly. It was pretty rough. But at the top of that was a sacred lake. There's no way of even describing that experience. And my book makes some effort at trying to describe some of these experiences. So it's being in the presence of God. That's why I'm so grateful I've been able to do this. And that one flower alone can be so life-changing. Each one of these is life-changing. Then this one, wild iris, that comes from the edge of the forest where I have 20 of these flowers. Many of these, actually, let's see. I'll go to, listen, wild iris, tulip, poplar, mayapple, and star spirit all come from my land here, the 160 acres, and I want to spend a few minutes talking about that. So wild iris is, I'm disconnected from the source of all life. So when we talk about the ambient energy that's being broadcast, and we have, 50 or 100 people on the various channels that are not where people can speak freely. And there's so many people talking about what is being broadcast to harm humanity and to usurp our authority and to usurp our sovereignty. So look at each one of these. Every one of these shows you that it's a frequency to counter effect the usurping of our autonomy. Pretty much. So it's like FlorAlive was created for this era. It's like, I don't know what else to say. It's just so incredible.
Yeah, it's like don't want to say medicine, but a tonic for the new age. It's like one of these new age technologies
it's a tonic for this era. It's a tonic for the post-2021 era, where this conjunction of forces is attempting to denature our planet for the goal of artificial intelligence. And that's why we have a ionized atmosphere that has simply become an electrical screen, basically a huge grid in which everybody can be projected and everybody can be controlled. That's the goal.
Yeah, they're trying to get us to hopelessness, aren't they? So that we don't take the fight out of us.
And that now, remember, there's a great flower for hopelessness, which is in healing support. You could take both of these. revival, and healing support. And you could start with one and then take the other. Pink lady sipper. I trust in life. I trust in my life. I'm free from all threats in life. I mean, my God, are you kidding? I mean, look at how each one of these things. And then what if someone believed in Star Spirit Flower, my mistakes are unforgivable? Remember, we're screening the unconscious mind in the patients. That's how I discovered these. And then now hundreds of doctors have used these now over 20 years. So it's been proven. So if someone says that their mistakes are unforgivable, they believe that they're going to suffer. So that's how. And then this one is Heartmend. We talked about. We're going to do a lot of these, I think, right? Lorenzo, we're going to try and provide
For sure
more training on this. Flor de la Luna was the first flower I extracted in Peru because a shaman showed it to me. It allows the receiving of love. That in itself is life changing.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we're going to get to do a series of these for everyone who's listening. We may be looking to talk to Brent weekly or more or less weekly. We're covering in this one the healing support and revive all, and he's shared several others. And I can attest to the blue-eyed grass and the healing support. He did kindly send those to myself and Campbell, and I have to say the blue-eyed grass blew my mind. My wife had said she never remembered her dreams her whole life, and same night that we took the blue-eyed grass, she started getting some messages from her dreams. Some other stuff was going on. It really helped heal a lot of hidden trauma that she didn't even know, and I didn't even know we had in our life. It's interesting. The one thing you said is I did find to have a taste in there, in different tastes in the two that I've tried, which is interesting. Could just be tasting frequency.
No, this is not uncommon. People will come into me and they'll say, well, that stuff that you gave me, well, I didn't notice it with the first one, but the last one, it had a very distinctive taste. And I was going, excuse me, there's nothing in there except water, organic alcohol, and our beautiful water. And they say, no, it's got, and I've heard dozens and dozens of people say that. So you are tasting, you're getting the effect of the frequencies.
It had a beautiful flowery taste. And something I want to mention as well, because I'm not good with alcohol. Brent had mentioned some flash boiling to get the alcohol out. And I did that very quickly and super effective still. So, for anybody.
You can simply take a cup of water, boil it, drop your drops into it, let it flash evaporate for 20 or 30 seconds and let it cool.
Yeah.
And that water is then your daily dose.
Yeah, that's what I did, and it works very well. I just want to let everyone know the healing support to blue-eyed grass. I can't recommend them enough, actually. You're blocked
Let me do a screen share and jump back to, so we talked about blue-eyed grass, healing support, and revival. And I think that's where we should leave it today. And then I want to go back and do something which is pretty much let's see. Let me go back to home page. I'm going to go back down to the bottom. And this is a very special thing. And I think we talked about doing a whole program on this.
Yeah.
So this is an appeal. And my belief is, as my life has manifested this way, someone, through you, and there's some other people that are standing on board trying to help, we're going to broadcast this information so that someone's going to hear it, or several people are going to hear it, and they're going to go, oh my God, how do I get out there? So what's happening is, and everybody can attest to this, part of the agenda is disable the workforce. That's happening.
Yep.
Make it much more difficult to find anyone to work. And in that way, we can stop the evolution of many businesses, unless those businesses are part of AI and they're part of the new global agenda. And then they can continue and they will flourish. But if anybody else is not fitting that profile, then they're going to have a hard time. So imagine that going on, plus this beautiful 160 acres that God gave me. The story of how that happened, how did I find this place, is in my book. It starts at the beginning of the book, is how did I get into this paradise that is 160 acres, which supports FlorAlive 20 of the flowers come from here, and my manufacturing facility is 3 miles from here. So what, and I'm very involved for the obvious reasons that most viewers know, in production of food for food self-reliance. So I think that's very important for all of us to figure out how to do that. We have that, we're right on track for achieving that by the end of 2024 on this piece of land, which has been organic agriculture since 1993 when we purchased it. What's happened is the 2 Mayan Indians, again, were sent by God 16 years ago. They did so much. There's no way, and every time I talk about it, it's in my heavy heart for me. They left. After 16 years, they had to go to a family business, and they're gone. So all this infrastructure, the rental house, another house there here that's built behind it for the caretaker of the land, a permaculturalist, an organic agriculture person that wants to make use of our 7 acres that are all irrigated, fantastic. It's a fully functional, beautiful farm, but has no one on it except me, my wife, and my child. So for the continuity of FlorAlive, for it to continue, and we'll make a video on it, I'm going to be looking for about 6 to 8 people representing 6 to 8 families to come in to form an intentional community. On the upper levels of these hills, we have the property is a half a mile long. We have these beautiful building sites, and people will eventually be able to get a home, a house, and walk down the hill to the 7 acres of this magnificent paradise with this 500,000 gallons of water that is this beautiful swimming pond. And it's also used for irrigation. But it cannot survive without humans, without community. So it is the FlorAlive Homestead community. There are going to be people that are going to go, oh my God. Now we've already had a few people right here. I don't know if you can still see, I'm using the arrow. There are 4 power plugins, and some people came in here already, spent 2 groups have come in to look at the property. They came up in trailers, they plugged in there, and they had their RV. So we're going to try and figure out a way that people can come and spend time. They can rent the Airbnb. I'll give them a special rate. People will be required to rent the Airbnb because we're not in the business of trying to float people. We want people that are engaged, willing, able, and financially able. One of my dear friends, you interviewed him from Germany. He is on his 3rd intentional community, and he told me why the first 2 failed. He said, Brent, he said, you run across these wonderful, wonderful people that are hapless and idealistic, and they have absolutely no funds and no future, and you want to help them out. Don't do that. Those are not the people that you want to form your intentional community. And I laughed at them and I go, yeah, I know. So the people that come here have got to be on target. They've got to be willing. But here's the thing. When you go to an intentional community, how are you going to live? What's really cool is as FlorAlive grows with the kind of things that you're doing and other people that are going to promote FlorAlive for the wonderful affiliate program, and that, by the way, is on the top of the webpage, the affiliate program, we're going to have quite a bit of growth in the next year or 2. And as the company grows, we'll be able to hire more people that can be paid for full-time or part-time to be part of the FlorAlive community and work there. So they will derive income from FlorAlive, and they will be able to live in this paradise. Now, it's the more people that are there is the greater the paradise. I mean, there'll be a point at which these hills, these little areas, I cleared all of this. I have 4,600 feet. We cleared 60 feet up. I had a huge track hose. I'm still recovering from how long that took. 9 months. We're almost done with all that. 8 years of firewood for many families. We have thousands and thousands of board feet of firewood that's already drying and stored. We have so much solidity. We have magnificent water, complete shielding on with the hills on both sides. Very little cell signal here. So it's this amazing, amazing place, minus humans. Has to have humans now.
Yeah.
So it's been prepared for humans. Now it's time for the humans to come, but very specific humans. So we're going to have a video that shows this whole thing. It'll take me about a month or 6 weeks to get that done, and we'll come back, and we'll show that. And I'm asking other people to promote that around the world so that this amazing synchronicity and symbiosis occurs, where someone from the spirit says, I gotta be there.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you want me to do. I'll do anything. Like we talked about your skill set, Lorenzo, and you have a very broad skill set and very capable in many areas. And I've met other folks. In fact, the two people that came, two of them came at different times. One of them just left. The second structure up here, which is designed for the land, the caretaker, which will probably be a farmer, organic farmer, or someone to take care of the land. The Mayan Indian left. He and I did all this infrastructure, but he left, and he left before it was done. So the plumbing to the bathroom was not done. So the first guy that came up and stayed there in his RV with his wife happened to be an engineer by design, but just brilliant. He was so capable. He said, Brent, you work on my wife, and I'm going to fix your bathroom. So we put in the whole bathroom. And so that's done. And so the last guy just finished the interior work. He came up and he helped me do it. And so now that little place is just a week or two away from being ready to occupy. And that will house the first person that says, yeah, let me look after the land. I know about organic agriculture. I'm a biodynamic farmer. I'm a permaculturalist, whatever. Somebody that's really familiar with managing land, and they can go over and let's look down the page. Look at what's happened here. That's the white quartz sand. I imported that sand. It's the same white quartz sand that you find on the beautiful North Florida beaches. Very famous beaches with white sand. That's what that is. I brought that in because I love beaches. So I made a beach. That's a 500,000 gallons, almost 500,000 gallons of pure water for the spring. This tunnel, 110 feet long, will provide vegetables for overwintering. And we just used it during the summer. It's unbelievably effective. That just was put in. So we've got 2 different tractors, a spader, 2 different spaders, all the equipment that's necessary, even though that we're moving toward no-till agriculture. It takes several years to get to that stage. Here, I'm planting dryland rice. We're going to harvest that right when I get back from a little vacation in a few weeks. We're going to harvest our rice. There's a little video of me talking here. I don't want to play that. This is a wood-fired greenhouse. And this is the eternal spring. This flows 24 hours a day. That's my little boy right there. You want water from the earth, you just simply go out and fill your glass, and that's 24 hours a day, about 2 gallons a minute. That's piped in from the spring 900 feet away, and it flows continuously. It's just a miracle. And then here at the end, you put your name and you contact us. Hey, I want to know more about this. So,
all right.
Any other questions in our last little minute or two?
No.
That's great. So yeah, if you're out there and you feel the call, guys, we'll leave the link below. Go and send Brent a message.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and then be patient while I may not get back to you for a few days, but communicate. And if I don't communicate, call. And it's got the phone number right at the top of the web page. So we surely want to find the people that believe that they should be there, and then we'll figure out a way somehow for them to stay long enough to really, this is a great challenge, and there's lots of people working on homesteads. There's a whole movement in this country, and I think in Canada and then probably in Australia. How can people come together in community? And the biggest issue is, how can we match? How can we can't go in where there 2 people are absolutely antagonistic? It'll ruin the whole community. So you have to figure out, and this is a God thing to me. It's got to be a divine thing. So that's where we keep this The last thing I want to say is just, and we'll give more with this huge concept from Dr. Tiller's work, Dr. William Tiller from Stanford. He defined, from the standpoint of quantum physics, what is meant by space conditioning. Changing a space from normal space to sacred space. What is involved in the physics of that? And I can talk about that in the future. And our flowers contribute to bringing in the divine into a space. So this whole opening of 7 acres in the middle of the 160-acre forest has been space conditioned for 30 years. And this building, this 110-foot tunnel, when I walk into it now, it's like I'm entering an alternate domain. It's like I'm in a time travel thing. I go inside that thing and I go, oh my God, what's going on in here? And I've never seen production. We produce 400 pounds of kale and chard in the middle of this heat wave. In just a few weeks, we had enough. That's enough for the whole community. So the thing is so amazing, that little tunnel. But the whole land is enchanted. So,
all right. Well, we will leave all the links below. Brent, maybe you can take us back to the main screen.
Yeah. Do we want to go back to your site?
So the site is good, or we can stop sharing. So everyone, healing support, blue-eyed grass, revival. We'll leave the links below. The new now, there's a coupon code for 11% off. All of our viewers can enjoy the already seemingly attractive prices we saw on there, plus with a further discount. If you want to reach out to Brent, you can through his website. If you have any questions or suggestions, please, send us some messages as well. Myself or Campbell are happy to pass them along. We're happy to share with Brent, and we'll have him back on future chats for updating more of the flowers and more of some of the lovely topics, space conditioning.
I think at some point, it's going to take a little while, but people that have experienced this, you can somehow do it, may be able to want to give their own testimonials. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Once we get this going.
Yeah, we're happy to bring.
They are so cool. Some of the things that happen to people, you can't even believe it in their own words. You go, well, that sounds wonderful. The other thing is that discount code. I think the way we made it, it's going to work for a long time, and I encourage you to publish it. I mean, let everybody benefit from this. Go, stick it on your Facebook, right? It benefits you, benefits both of you, benefits us, and it benefits them. Let's spread that as far as it can go, and it gives people a discount for these wonderful products. So
it's great intent. We will leave all the links below. I'll leave a link to Brent's website. You can check out his book. Pick it up through his website as he suggested. It supports him. It supports us. It supports you. And we're delighted to have you here. And we'll have Brent back more or less next week. We're looking to do something on a regular basis, because it seems to me there's lots more we can talk about related to this and all the other lovely ways that you can heal through these crazy times, your trauma, your health, your wealth, and most importantly, your heart and all else besides.
Very much. All right, great. Good to meet you, Campbell, and we'll all visit soon.
Yes, nice to meet you, and thanks for the chat, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, I'll talk to you very soon. I'm going to take us out. So thank you again. Thank you all. We love you very much. Please like and subscribe. This will go on my channel and Campbell's channel. If anyone has any questions or suggestions for future chats with Brent, please let us know. And we're happy you're here.
Very good.
Cheers, guys.
Made me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say.